we all know these guys at the top don't want you to do well. I'd say if there's one thing in this world that's clear, it's that the odds are always stacked against you. But what if I were to tell you that at some point has to change? And there are guys who are looking out for our best interests. Well, let's just take a look at this right here. Reuters suggest that the SEC may have to end its rule forcing new hires to sell their Bitcoin and other crypto if they want any chance of hiring industry experts. The most important thing to understand here is, as of this point, anybody out there that's making rules about crypto doesn't have any crypto. Has two parts though. On the one hand, that's good because that means they won't make choices specifically for their own benefit. But the reason it's extremely motherfreaking bad is because in every part of Congress, in every part in politics, they got their money where their mouth is. The other way around. They put their mouth where their money is because why not? If these guys are specifically invested in industry, they're going to make sure that industry does well and so forth and so on. It's been that way since forever, and it's going to stay that way because you cannot stop these people from having some sort of financial interest in something. So there will always be these conflicts of interest, but for some reason, you can't have it in crypto. And the thing is, the reason it has to change is because otherwise there's nobody fighting for it. It's only the opposite. If all of the people in have to sell their crypto anyway, why try to make this industry do good? Because you're not making any benefit off of it. Other people are making money, but you aren't. Which is why we've already seen some very big fraud cases in the crypto space with regards to, Ethereum. Because at that point, Ethereum did blossomingly well because there was financial interest in it. And then afterwards, with a lot of other cryptos, there wasn't, so those did bad. Anyway, it's good in my opinion to see that these guys are trying to change things up. Only problem is they're going to have to fight Big Boss Gensler, and that's where I got a little funny video for. Funny, depends on what you call funny. I wouldn't say this system is funny at all. 𝗕𝗃𝗪 said Gary Gensler is as ineffective as he is incompetent. Fortunately, my nonpartisan appropriations amendment to rein in the SEC enforcement abuses against the digital asset industry passed the House today with no opposition. Congress will hold unelected bureaucrats accountable. It's a long one. It's a 5-minute video, but I definitely want you guys to take a look. And just before I send you guys over to this video, make sure you go ahead and press that like button because you're not losing anything. Let's just take a look at this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Regulation by enforcement is a practice all too common with this administration. This is particularly the case at the SEC and Chair Gary Gensler's approach towards our capital markets and financial services industry, but especially with our emerging digital assets community. My amendment seeks to put an end to Chair Gensler's pattern of regulatory abuse, a pattern that is crushing American innovation and capital formation without undermining our ability to go after criminals and fraudsters. Specifically, my amendment prohibits the SEC from using funds for enforcement activities related to digital asset transactions until Congress passes legislation that gives the SEC jurisdiction over this asset class. This will keep Chair Gensler, who has proven himself to be ineffective and incompetent, in check while Congress continues working to give this industry a chance to grow and develop right here in the United States. Let's just look at the facts. Under Gensler's leadership, the SEC has pursued dozens of enforcement actions against the digital asset industry, despite never finalizing a single rule or regulation for the industry to follow. Chair Gensler refuses to provide the marketplace with clear criteria for digital assets that he would consider to be a security. How can this industry comply if there are no rules or guidelines to follow? On top of that, Chair Gensler has developed a track record of going after actors like Coinbase, a publicly traded company desperately trying to survive and innovate right here in the United States instead of going offshore like so many are forced to do. And Gensler has done this while missing bad actors like FTX and Terra Luna. At a time when clear guidance is desperately needed, Chair Gensler instead spends taxpayer resources praising himself for targeting celebrities like Kim Kardashian, while Sam Bankman-Fried was running a Ponzi scheme right under his nose. What's worse is the SEC doesn't even have jurisdiction from Congress over this asset class to begin with. Yet, the SEC has no shame in trying to expand their jurisdiction to swallow and destroy the digital assets industry through regulation by enforcement. Last year, the SEC's Director of Enforcement admitted during a House Financial Services Committee hearing that the SEC pursues enforcement actions on entities that are actually outside of its jurisdiction. One of these extra-jurisdictional enforcement cases was the SEC's landmark crypto enforcement case against Ripple, alleging that XRP is a security. In July, the Southern District of New York sided against the SEC, asserting that XRP is not itself a security. In August, the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit found the SEC to be acting arbitrarily and capriciously in its refusal to approve Grayscale's Bitcoin spot ETF application. And just last month, the Government Accountability Office found the SEC to have created an illegal crypto accounting rule that is actually out of compliance with the Administrative Procedure Act and the Congressional Review Act. The unique characteristic...
Just for a second there, I want to intervene. He's putting up a lot of good points, and it's funny, but it's nearly impossible to refute anything he says. The SEC is an entity that has done their job so poorly that you can't dispute any of these things. And the craziest part is he just keeps stacking them. He just keeps going and going and going and going. What can they do? Gary Gensler's watching this, bawling his eyes out. Well, he's probably not because, well, he can get away with anything anyway. So why even bother to cry if you know you can just swipe it off again? But isn't it crazy, this list? Aren't you listening to this thinking, did they really just do that? And at the baseline of it all is just the idea, in my opinion, that they want to keep things as vague as possible for some reason we can't fully grasp yet. I have my theories as to why they're keeping things vague. There's a lot of interesting theories floating around as well, and we can think of some. One is that they want to make sure the people in their system make a frick ton of money, but to get integrated into the system takes time. So keep things vague. Don't ban anything. Don't approve anything. Just keep things vague until the guys that you want in are settled, and then you approve everything. And again, that would make sense as to why they go across or further than their jurisdiction allows to put their foot in the door, because that way they have more control over different sectors and different entities. But let's just keep on watching this video.
Characteristics of digital assets make it hard to fit this asset class into any existing regulatory framework. That doesn't mean crypto is up for grabs by whatever federal bureaucratic agency has the most taxpayer-funded enforcement resources to burn. Congress is working on legislation to establish a framework for how we classify specific digital assets as a security or a commodity, which will dictate the regulator of jurisdiction. Importantly, while Congress works to pass this necessary legislation, my amendment will not prevent future bad actors like FTX from being pursued and punished to the fullest extent of the law. The Department of Justice, the Treasury, and the Office of Foreign Asset Control all have the existing and sufficient authority to prosecute criminal acts of fraud, abuse, tax, or sanctions evasion. Some would even argue that these entities have done a better job of attacking fraud and criminal activity in this space than Gary Gensler and the SEC. This amendment is designed to send an important signal not just to the SEC but to every regulatory entity in the federal government. Congress will hold unelected bureaucrats accountable. SEC Chair Gensler cannot continue to abuse the powers of his agency to fulfill a political agenda of driving the new and promising digital asset industry offshore. Congress must be allowed to finish its legislative work so the future of digital asset innovation is determined by Americans, not by unelected bureaucrats in D.C. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I reserve.
What a powerhouse of a speech. What a powerhouse of a speech. And at the bottom, Tom Emmer also added, my amendment prohibits the SEC from using taxpayer-funded resources to pursue enforcement actions against the digital asset industry until Congress passes legislation that authorizes regulatory enforcement jurisdiction. But Wendy O had a proper question asking, how long do we need to wait for change though? It's a circus at this point and feels like election season propaganda to obtain votes. And what I think she means with that is Tom Emmer. Oh, damn. Tom Emmer is indeed a freaking knight in golden armor. But I don't want to be the guy to say it, but he's also just another motherfricker talking. Do you guys understand what I mean? He's just talking. I want to do this. I want to change that. We should hold them accountable. But nothing's changing. I mean, Gary Gensler is just parading through just like a motherfucking machine. And so at the end of the day, do his words really hold that much value? Should we really be listening to these guys that are trying to change things but are getting nothing done? Because that's the problem with this space. You have so much talk, so much, I want to do, I want to change, we should, but then nothing happens. Gary Gensler is still walking free. And I don't mean he should go to jail. I mean he should be slapped on the back a little. But just talking about slapping him on the back doesn't really achieve anything. And again, I understand as well that guys like 𝗕𝗪𝗲𝗄 don't have all the power in the world. They might really look out for crypto's best interest, but they just don't get the chance to do so. And that's certainly possible here as well. But like Wendy says, it's a freaking circus. And I'm looking out every single day for the moment that something really does change, because just talking about it doesn't seem to do much. I mean, if we take a look at Bitcoin ETFs and the fact that they denied it, doesn't that say enough with just how crazy things are? But you want to know even something crazier? The SEC chair, Gary Gensler, says FTX, the crypto exchange, could actually be rebooted under new leadership at some point. Can you imagine that FTX or to relaunch? Who in their right mind would ever use FTX again? I can't comprehend who thought that'd be a good idea. I love this little meme right there. That's funny. Take a look at this. Come in and register. It's free candy. Anyway, there are some people looking out for our best interests. Well, at least supposedly so. U.S. Senator 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗏 introduces a bill to protect the right to self-custody your Bitcoin and crypto, meaning that you can just hold crypto on your own. At the end of the day, you don't need a bill to self-custody crypto, because what can they do? Except for indeed making it illegal or more annoying. And Kraken even says they're pretty excited if such a thing were to pass. But like Satoshi Club here says, they have introduced many such bills. It's just free PR. Pass them, because if you just keep putting up that you want a bill like this to be approved, but it doesn't, then all you did is get some, PR. Yeah, it's true. It's about getting it approved. It's about getting it passed. 𝗂𝗏 here says, I think we're getting the right idea and heading slowly into the right direction. Well, the more I keep reading about this, the more I think that it's very far from the truth. It's very much this circus keeps getting crazier. They keep adding new characters to the circus, and the only thing that's being added as well, from a positive note, is that the circus is getting more criticism. But that doesn't mean the circus is closing down anytime soon. It doesn't mean the circus isn't getting any crazier. There's just more criticism on the circus. TLDR, I think. An ETF cannot be approved whilst it's in the comment period. If the SEC wants to be fair and approve all spot applications at the same time, then it would have to do so when there are no outstanding filings in a comment period, which is between the 9th and the 17th of November, after the current comment period ends and before the new ones begin, or early January of 2024. It's an interesting thought. As a response to James Seifert, who said, new research note from me today. We still believe 90% chance, James is by the way from Bloomberg, 90% chance by January 10th for a spot Bitcoin ETF approval. But if it comes earlier, we are entering a window where a wave of approval orders for all current applicants could occur. Delay orders were issued by the SEC for BlackRock, Bitwise, VanEck, WisdomTree, Invesco, Fidelity, and Valkyrie. At the same time, if the agency wants to allow all 12 filers to launch, as we believe, this is the first available window since Grayscale's court victory was affirmed. The window for all 12 ends by 11 or the 17th of November. The point here being that they only have a specific amount of time to approve these things if they want to do them all at once, which is right now for about another week or so. But theoretically, the SEC could make a decision on the first 9 on this list at any point from now until January 10th of 2024. And so generally speaking, they're pretty excited about a Bitcoin ETF approval, perhaps within even a week from now. All I'm going to say on that is crypto's in a good spot right now. Regardless of the SEC, regardless of their crazy shenanigans, as I can call it, things are good. And I guess it showcases that whatever the regulatory side wants to do, it doesn't matter, because this technology can't be stopped. All the cryptos we know and love, they have figured out a way to make the system better. They want to stop it, obviously, but they can't, because the way it was designed is to make the system better without being able to be stopped, if you understand my drift. So they can try as much as they want. They can make things more difficult, and they can make our gains a lot less than they could be, but they can't stop this technology from just spiraling out of control in a positive way. So all I can say about that is I'm freaking excited, guys. I keep investing all my money into crypto because I'm a lunatic, I guess, but I think we're on the right path. And all I'll say about that is, hopefully you guys are with me on this journey. Not a financial advisor, but I think we do pretty well, especially in bull markets, which we're in right now. And I won't let some guy like Gary Gensler stop us from making all these crazy gains. So yeah, that's about it. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed it. Make sure you press the like button if you did. And I'll see you guys again in another crypto video, hopefully later today.